It is a Friday afternoon, which means it's time for a refreshing athletic brewing company, Golden Lager. Not a sponsor yet. So I'm done with work and got a lot to do here this weekend. I'm going to talk about this book in a minute, The Wandering Mind. But first, I'm going to wander for a bit, let you know what's up. I'm going to spend a lot of time this weekend cleaning up in my studio here. There's a video from a few weeks ago where I talk about some pretty major infrastructure changes I made, moving desks around. So I've got the general shape in order now, I think, having lived with it. But as part of the move, a lot of things just sort of got dumped on the floor, which is pretty much how I work. I want to test out a big shape and not worry about where things actually are. So every one of the desks is total chaos. I'm okay with mostly chaos, but this is total chaos. So now that I've recognized where things need to be, I'm going to, for example, there behind me, I've moved a Eurorec case with some select modules that are going to work with my Mugafuga, my ring mod piano, ring mod pedal, which I attached to my upright piano here. So that's a big change. Now, of course, those of you who are here for the meditation are probably wondering what a Eurorec is. And all I can say is the two go hand in hand, finger in finger, tightly coupled. Eurorack and meditation. Eurorack is a format of synthesizer. And I love it almost as much as I love meditation practices. So this book, The Wandering Mind by Jamie Kreiner, it's been on my list for a long time, meaning I've had it. It's been in my stack for a long time. And I've just always passed over it because I wasn't quite sure where it fit. It is about the importance that medieval monks, placed on distraction and the steps that they took to avoid a distraction or to counter distraction. And she breaks it out by things like community, the body, study, practice, memory, 4 or 5 different areas, all of which had behaviors or practices associated with them intended to support the monk in his or her struggle against distraction, to keep the mind focused, and from that point of focus reaching out to God. So this is mostly Western monasticism, although it is early Middle Ages monasticism. So there's some Coptic stuff and some Desert Father stuff that's quite nice. So look, it reads kind of like, and I don't know if it is, but it reads kind of as if her dissertation had been rewritten into a more accessible book. And I say that as a compliment in the sense that not that it's a dry academic book, because it's not, but it has a lot of information in it that is just really smoothly organized. It's not a practice book, right? It's not a book that has a great sense of narrative personality behind it. But I think I was able to read this and find some interesting pieces of information and also some useful practices. If nothing else, it's good to be reinforced in the knowledge that distraction is not a modern problem, right? I talk a lot about social media because it drives me batty, the fact that I can feel my mind constricting around this algorithm that I know is not good for me. I know it's not it's not designed to bring me equanimity or enlightenment or compassion or kindness. It is entirely created to distract me. The monks in this book would say that it is the work of the devil. That's perhaps a bit of an overstatement, but they wrote about distraction with the same confusion and fervor that I speak about social media. They're talking about gossip, conversations, slander, right? Anything can be a distraction if it takes the mind away. And it's not a question of volume, right? Social media seems to have a greater volume because I do think it is uniquely targeted in a way that, a bunch of gossiping monks around their gruel some cold night in Northern Europe, that may be distracting, but not in the same way that I think we're subjected to. That's my opinion. I know I get a bit worked up about it. So the thing that okay, two things. The examples in this book are beautiful. There's images of documents. There's images of this is one of a mnemonic device, right? Because not just a memory palace that we've heard about. Maybe if you've seen Sherlock. But an entire construct that unfolds on the wings of an angel. It's quite beautiful. Calligraphy, illumination, mosaics, decoration in the buildings. These were all, so these are all there to attract the mind, because when you're faced with distraction, there's a couple of different tactics or strategies, I guess, that can be applied to it. And one of them is to reject the distraction. But how do you but to reject distraction, you can simply turn away from it, or you can replace it. And maybe that's a distinction or a difference without a distinction. But certainly many of these works of art or ornamented documents sort of started with the assumption that the mind is going to be distracted. So let it be distracted by something that is going to direct the mind into the arena of practice. I think that's really powerful. The mind will always generate thoughts, and the mind will always want to follow those thoughts because that's what the mind is. It's a thought-producing machine. The intent of meditation is not to stop that, right? It's more like to put it in its proper perspective, to understand the attributes of the thoughts as they arise, to not get attached to the thoughts because the thoughts are not permanent, right? The mechanics of a thought is to arise, to exist, and then eventually to disperse. And by becoming distracted and holding on to it, we introduce anxiety and dissatisfaction in our own mind. So now, if the thought is something from Facebook, or if it's some fantasy, some delusion, some narrative, right? What if instead of that, it's an image of the archangels, or in my tradition, an image of the tutelary deities of the tradition? What if it's an image of Sipagyamo, the universal mother, the protector of the teachings? What if it's Shenla-oka, the emanation of primordial Buddha? At least then the mind is glomming onto something that may be just as much a distraction as sexual fantasy or misremembered argument, but the mind is formed by what it feeds on. That's the first part of the Dhammapada, right? The mind follows the content that's put into it. So why not control that? Why not choose something that is evocative, spiritual, or wise? Why not? Why not replace distraction with direction? And so all of these tools that we have at our disposal for supporting meditation, prayer. There is a distinction between meditation and prayer, particularly prayer in the Christian monastic tradition where we are praying for salvation. It's not an element of Buddhist meditation. But the idea that we need a framework and we need support so that when our mind begins to move, there are guardrails that enhance the mindfulness, the natural mindfulness of our being that says, hey, this is not the object of attention. This is a distraction. This is not the mind unfolding. This is the mind constricting and attaching to something. So, The Wandering Mind by Jamie Kreiner. She teaches somewhere. She teaches at the University of Georgia. It's a nice book. I enjoyed it. Let me know if you've read it or anything similar. Let me know if you have any thoughts, questions, comments, criticisms, whatnot, in the comments below. And otherwise, keep your wits about you. These are trying times, easily distracting. Keep your wits about you, and I will talk to you again soon.